born from the ashes of a revolution. In the heart of the Belgian province of Namur, in the middle of the dense forest of the Cell, a phantom stood for decades. Its spires, like the fingers of a skeleton, pierced the sky, and its eye-socket windows looked at the world with mute reproach. This was the Miranda Castle, or as it was later called, the Noisy Castle. The history of this place began not with construction but with flight. During the horrors of the French Revolution, the family of Count Beaufort was forced to abandon their family castle of Vevey. Fleeing the guillotine, they found refuge on a modest farm. It was this farm, once a place of survival, that would later become the basis for a grand project. The descendants of the Count decided that here, where their ancestors hid from death, a palace should be built, which would personify their victory over time and persecution. Edward Milner and the Game with Time. In 1866, the English architect Edward Milner arrived on the territory. He was a master who saw the world through the prism of English Gothic and Romanticism. He conceived not just a summer residence, but a real stone ode to the Gothic style. However, fate decided otherwise. Milner did not live to see the completion of his creation. He died in 1884, leaving the castle half-finished. Construction stretched for decades, and only in 1907, thanks to the efforts of the French architect Pelchner, the castle finally found its finished form, the same central tower that became its calling card. It was a triumph of brick and stone, the sculptural forms of which were carefully faced to imitate natural rocks. The Beaufort family obtained their dream residence, unaware that the silence of the Namur forests was only a temporary respite from the trials of the 20th century. War and the children of the railway. The castle was not spared by the Second World War. It became an occupied territory, a witness to the Ardennes operation and the movement of Nazi troops. Surprisingly, it emerged from this conflict relatively intact, as if Milner's architecture itself protected it from madness. In 1950, a new era began. Miranda Castle became the Noisy Castle. The National Railway Company of Belgium decided that this giant should serve other purposes: the rehabilitation of children. For decades, children's laughter rang here, sports camps worked, children who needed help were treated. This was the golden era of the castle, when it was filled with life, not ghosts. But by the end of the 1970s, the company's interest began to fade. The costs of maintaining the colossal structure became prohibitive. In 1991, the castle doors closed forever. The era of destruction and urban myth. After 1991, dark times began for Miranda. Fires, either accidental or deliberate, burned out the insides of the castle. The ceiling began to collapse and the facade began to crumble. But it was in this state that the castle became iconic. Photographers, urbex researchers of abandoned places, and just adventurers from all over the world flocked here. The castle became the most recognizable abandoned object in Europe. Its gloomy corridors, vine-covered stairs, and a clock tower that had stopped forever, all this created the atmosphere of horror films. But behind the romanticism of neglect was the reality. The owners of the castle, the Beaufort family, did not have the funds for restoration. Millions of euros were needed to restore the building, which had become a disaster trap. Mystical labyrinth legends of Miranda. It was here that the castle began to be overgrown with myths that turned it into the king of abandoned places. Ghosts of the railway children. Since the castle was a children's camp and sanatorium for a long time, Many stories have arisen about children who did not leave the castle. Stalkers who spent the night in the castle often said that at night from the empty corridors they could hear the sounds of children's laughter, the rattling of toys or crying. Especially often they mentioned a boy in a blue uniform who supposedly stood near the windows of the main tower. The myth says that these are the spirits of children who died here during epidemics in the 50s, and the castle took their souls so that they would remain within its walls forever. The clock that stopped time. The central tower of the castle was famous for its clock. Legend has it that when the castle was abandoned in 1991, the clock stopped at exactly midnight. Urbex researchers have often claimed that time flows differently in the castle. An hour inside feels like 10 minutes and sometimes like a whole day. The myth is that if you hear the clock strike in an abandoned castle, you will find yourself in a time trap and will not be able to find a way out until the sun rises. Miranda's Firebird. During the 1991 fire, locals claim to have seen a huge fiery bird-like figure above the central tower. They called it Miranda's Firebird. According to legend, it was the castle's guardian spirit, leaving the building because it could no longer protect its inhabitants. It is said that after the bird disappeared into the sky, the castle began to die before our eyes. The walls crumbled faster than any other building in the same condition. The Book of Last Names. There is a legend that the last inhabitants of the castle, members of the Lydicock-Beaufort family before leaving it forever, left the Book of Last Names in the library. It supposedly recorded the names of all the people who had once worked in the castle or visited it. The myth says that the book did not burn down during the fire, but was hidden in the walls, and whoever finds it will be able to see how the fate of the family changed through the prism of the fates of their servants. This is a very strong social myth about the connection between the aristocracy and the common people. The key to the 14th room. Among those who illegally entered the castle, the so-called stalkers, there was a myth about the 14th room. Supposedly, there were exactly 13 rooms in the castle that were open to inspection, but there was also a 14th room, the entrance to which was disguised as a mirror. It is said that whoever finds the 14th room will be able to make a wish, but the price for this will be that he will never be able to return home. This is very reminiscent of classic Gothic plots, and many have spent hours knocking on the walls in search of this mirror. The Alchemist from the Tower. Locals of Celle said that the last representative of the Lydicock-Beaufort family was fond of the occult sciences. Allegedly, a secret library with ancient manuscripts was arranged in the central tower, completed in 1907. Myth says that during the fire of 1991, everything burned down except for one tome, which was found charred, but with strange symbols that glowed in the dark. It was believed that the castle deliberately attracted the fire to destroy evidence of alchemical experiments. Mirror corridor. Urbex researchers often mention the so-called mirror corridor. It should not be confused with the 14th room. The myth says that in one of the galleries where there were many mirrors, the reflections of people behaved differently. They could be a second late or even look in the other direction. This was used as an explanation for why many photographers complained about strange silhouettes in their pictures, which could not be explained by the play of light. The Ghost Castle. Miranda Castle became so famous online that it became a phenomenon of mass illusion. Many people who had never even been to Belgium claimed to have seen the castle in their dreams. Stories began to emerge of a traveling castle, supposedly appearing in various forests in Europe, but only those in difficult circumstances could see it. This gave Miranda an aura of something supernatural existing outside of physical reality. Abandoned letters. In the 1990s, when the castle was still accessible, researchers found scattered letters dating back to the 1950s and 60s, the time of the children's camp. The myth turned these letters into messages from the other world. It is said that if you read such a letter aloud in the hall of the castle, you can hear the answer to your question. This is a very touching myth that emphasizes the tragedy of the children's camp that has become a wasteland. Stone tears. Legend has it that the stone used to face the castle was brought from the site of a great battle. This is said to be why the castle walls cry. The condensation that drips down the walls in damp weather was often mistaken for tears. Locals believed that it was not just moisture, but the tears of soldiers who could not find peace. This gave the building an even more Gothic and lively character. The final finale and demolition. 2013 was the point of no return. The owners officially requested permission to demolish, citing the danger to people's lives. A war began between common sense and love of history. Public organizations, petitions, protest, everything was in vain. The decision was made. In October 2016, the excavators began their dirty work. It was a long, painful process that resembled a slow execution. Appeals stopped the work from time to time, giving fans hope, but it was only a reprieve. In October 2017, only rubble remained of the majestic Miranda Castle. The stables are the only thing that survived, as a mute memory of the former luxury. Miranda's lesson. Miranda Castle didn't just disappear, it left behind a question. Why do we love abandoned buildings so much but are unwilling to pay to preserve them while they are still alive? Miranda has become a symbol of the fact that architectural heritage is not a constant. It's fragile like paper. The castle's history is a lesson that when a building loses its purpose, it becomes doomed. Today, looking at photos of what's left of the stables, you feel empty. But the memory of this castle lives on in thousands of shots taken by urban explorers. It was a count's dream, a children's camp, and the king of abandoned castles. Miranda is gone, but it taught us to appreciate time while it's still on our side. Thanks for watching, my friend. Don't forget to watch our other videos and learn new mysteries. We have a lot more interesting things in store for you. Friends, maybe some of you have been to similar places and seen something strange. Write in the comments whether you believe that abandoned buildings preserve the memory of their owners. Leave your questions and wishes in the comments. What should we tell you about next time?